Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, teachers protest at San Diego Unified School District over understaffing for special education classes. What spurred the rally and what the demonstrators are demanding from Superintendent Cindy Martin. The mayor announces a new plan to help refugees integrate into the community, and how this proposal differs from the current system. The Trump administration is deploying more troops to the southern border. More on their mission and when they'll arrive. Plus, wet weather continues in San Diego. How long will the storm stick around? KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Special education teachers in San Diego Unified are demonstrating outside of Superintendent Cindy Martin's office this evening. They say their caseloads are unmanageable and they need relief. KPBS education reporter Megan Burks is at the district offices now. Megan.
Thanks, Ebony. We're out here at the district headquarters in Normal Heights, where it is definitely wet. About a half hour ago, 60 or so teachers, staff members, and parents crowded into the main entry hall here at the district headquarters. They wanted to deliver a letter to Superintendent Cindy Martin, saying that it was calling for an immediate staffing up for special education, as well as asking Cindy Martin to attend a forum in the coming weeks to hear their concerns. Martin was not available to accept that letter. She was in an audit committee, but she did send down a staff member to accept it. Now, what's happening is the district is wanting to do some job title changes. They want to turn some special education teachers into resource specialists. And why that matters is resource specialists can take on a larger caseload. Now, just about everybody in the special education department here at San Diego Unified says they are maxed out. Any larger of a caseload is a non-starter for them. Now, new this hour, the district has decided to go ahead and hold off on that plan for a bit while they come together at the table. But the district maintains that they are adequately staffing special education and they do not need to add more. Let's hear from the HR specialist, Acacia Thede.
When you say the word understaffing, there is an assumption that we haven't hired enough people, and that's actually not accurate. So what we are doing is we're working with teachers on the ground, with principals, to make sure that our contract language is being followed.
I was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to write reports. I was working through lunch. I was getting to work at 6:30 to work. I worked at my home in the afternoons and evenings and all weekends. I had no life, and the kids suffered.
Now, that teacher there disputing what the district says. She says that last year she had 37 students instead of the 20 she was supposed to have. And those, again, are kids with special needs. She says at least one little boy who has autism was put into a general education class without the support that he's supposed to have to be successful in that class. She did file a grievance. The district says it's received it and it's going through the proper channels. Now, what's next? These teachers say they're going to be educating parents about what's going on in the district, and they're hoping to get a big showing for that forum that Cindy Martin has agreed to attend. Reporting in Normal Heights, Megan Burks, KPBS News.
Now, Megan, you've reported that San Diego Unified needs to cut more than $30 million from its budget. Is this all linked to those staffing challenges?
The district says it's not, that they're simply just trying to follow the rule of their contract with the teachers union. It's a bit unclear. This all kind of started several years ago when the district decided to change up how it administers special education. So it wanted to mainstream students into those general ed classes, which is a good thing. Research supports that. But teachers here say that they're not getting enough support to do that successfully, so they feel that maybe that consolidation was an effort to save money. We'll have to see how it all plays out.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for that report, Megan. At least 800,000 immigrants live in San Diego. Now, local leaders are pushing a new campaign to help welcome immigrants and new citizens to the region. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says this is the result of a year of research.
Monday, city and county leaders, along with members of the business community, gathered to announce their commitment to helping immigrants successfully integrate into San Diego. For more than a year, a Welcoming San Diego steering committee has been working on the idea. The plan calls for 20 different recommendations to help with immigrant and refugee integration. Things like creating an Office of Immigrant Advancement and things like job training and career placement. But those recommendations actually have to be implemented now.
And that's why I'm pleased to announce that I'm creating the City of San Diego's first immigrant affairs position. And this individual will be responsible for reviewing all of the recommendations.
Funding for the proposed immigrant affairs position still needs to be approved by the city council. The steering committee also recommended reducing barriers toward home ownership and ensuring housing stability for immigrants. That's in addition to promoting entrepreneurship and supporting immigrant-owned businesses.
We hope that this is not just a strategic plan that kind of dies away. We really want some action to be taken by the government, by our local elected officials. It sounds like we have a lot of support behind it.
Mayor Kevin Faulkner says the recommendations, along with the proposed immigrant affairs position, will help coordinate local resources for immigrants who are an important part of the local economy.
To bring that all to say there's a place where you can go. There's somebody that you can talk to. And there are resources to help folks get on their feet, start that new business, help provide educational opportunities.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
More troops are coming to California's southern border, but just how many is unclear. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says the details of their mission has been kept relatively quiet.
The Pentagon announced roughly 3,700 more troops are headed to the southern border to install wire barriers. A number of those troops are headed to California. There has been little access to the Marines since before the holidays. In a written statement, Colonel Kathy Wilkinson, Army North spokesperson, says the military had been providing medical assistance to migrants. From January 5th to January 31st, the military evaluated about 200 patients in California and in Arizona at the request of CBP. In California, migrants were being evaluated at the Imperial Beach Border Patrol Station. That mission ended February 1st. Now, medical teams only provide emergency life-saving care in California. When all of the troops arrive, there will be roughly 6,000 troops on the southern border, the most since President Trump called on the military just prior to the midterm elections. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
This is national security we're talking about. We're not talking about games.
We're not doing a wall. Does anybody have any doubt that we're not doing a wall?
They're incredible job numbers, beyond anybody's expectation.
Tomorrow, President Trump will deliver the State of the Union address. It was postponed due to the government shutdown over the president's push for a new border wall. In a weekend interview with CBS News, the president once again said he might declare a national emergency to build a new wall. UCSD political science professor Thad Kauser says it may be the president's only option, even if it carries a legal and political risk.
Well, there's a possibility that February 15th could be the timeline for a deal between Congress and the president on the wall. Don't expect Nancy Pelosi to send Donald Trump a Valentine's Day gift of a deal for the wall. She won by staying strong in the shutdown of January, and I don't think Democrats are going to change their plan. So I think President Trump seems to be clearly in the last week pivoting towards this plan of a national emergency. I think he'll lay the rhetorical groundwork for it in his State of the Union address, and then come February 15th, I think there's going to be an emergency. It seems clear that he can declare that national emergency, but what powers that unlocks will be up for debate. So there are a couple provisions that allow him to build either a wall, something that has been authorized by Congress in the past, or something that is necessary to military defense. So the definitions of necessary and authorized will be fought over in the courts for probably a year, but that may give the president the chance to get shovels in the ground and get some progress on his main campaign pledge of building a wall.
The State of the Union address will be delivered tomorrow at 6. PBS NewsHour will have coverage and analysis on television. NPR coverage will be carried on KPBS FM.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, confronting racism amidst a controversy sparked by Virginia governor's yearbook page. Coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Wet weather continues in San Diego with another storm system pushing through. We also have high tides along the coast. This is video taken in Oceanside by KPBS's Allison St. John. A winter storm warning is in effect for the mountains until Wednesday. Let's go now to meteorologist Aaron Calandra to find out how long the storm will stick around.
Good evening. We certainly did have a wet day today, off and on across much of San Diego County. We are seeing a high surf advisory for much of the county. Those waves, they're lopping in, and it's going to be pretty dangerous. Could even see isolated coastal flooding. Here's our radar. Notice we are seeing rain across the region, heavy at times. San Diego seeing about 1¼ inches of rain from Saturday through right now. And those totals, they are going to increase. Here's the futurecast for the rain, and you could see right around 5 o'clock. Our totals were close to ½ inch. That's an additional in San Diego, and Ramona around 0.42 inches. Moving forward for tonight, though, those numbers are going to increase. Ramona seeing more than 1 inch of rain, and that will continue through tomorrow as those showers continue. Now, another big story is going to be the snow. Across the mountains here in San Diego County, we do expect to see several inches. We're talking about 6 to 8 inches in Mount Laguna, so certainly some travel disruptions there. Stay tuned, and I'll have your full forecast coming up.
The death of several thousand birds at the Salton Sea is raising concerns about the lake's ecological health. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson explains why.
An outbreak of avian cholera claimed the lives of thousands of ducks, gulls, and other birds looking for food along the shores of the Salton Sea. The Audubon Society's Director of Bird Conservation, Andrea Jones, says it may mean that the healthy habitat around the lake is shrinking.
When duck species and geese in particular crowd into smaller areas, so it's particularly prevalent in drought conditions or areas where you have a limited supply of good quality water, the birds get in really close contact with each other and spread diseases like this.
Jones says the recent die-off creates added urgency for state officials who are tasked with the recovery of the Salton Sea. She says it's a reminder to begin improving habitat soon so future outbreaks can be avoided. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A number of studies have sounded the alarm about a future shortage in healthcare workers. And KPBS reporter Taryn Minto says a San Diego program is tapping high schoolers to help fill the gaps and put them on the path to a career in healthcare.
You got to make sure you wash your hands.
Nurse Whitney Abutin preps to make her rounds at Rady Children's Hospital. And today, she's not alone. Hoover High School student Yadira Calderon follows closely behind. The two gear up with gloves and head into the room of a young patient.
What's your name?
Isaiah.
Isaiah, nice to meet you. So we're just going to do some vital signs.
Abutin checks his temperature, blood pressure, and asks about his appetite. All the while, she narrates what she's doing to Calderon and fields her questions.
How often do you take blood pressure? Is it every time you check in? Or?
Yes, so each patient is different.
This shadowing experience is just one of several that Calderon received during the semester. The high school senior is part of the Faces for the Future program that provides in-the-field learning for students from underserved communities. That includes San Diego City Heights neighborhood and 8 other cities across the U.S., such as Oakland and Detroit.
And our goal is that these kids graduate from college and get a well-paying job in the healthcare field.
Mary Beth Moran oversees the Faces program in San Diego. She says it benefits the students because the wellness education and career preparation help address poor health factors that often plague communities of low socioeconomic status.
And by educating these kids, particularly in the healthcare profession, it not only provides them a means to go for a degree in health, but also increases their knowledge of health to help themselves and their well-being now.
It also serves the industry. The program helps boost the pool of medical professionals to meet future workforce needs. Researchers predict a shortage of up to 120,000 medical professionals by 2030. And it ensures workers are as diverse as the population they serve.
The demographics of our country are changing, and with the Affordable Care Act, more and more people can access health care, and we want to make sure we're providing culturally and linguistically appropriate care for that population.
Faces for the Future alum Wendy Mejia is just one example. The bilingual speaker and 2011 high school graduate is now working for the hospital's Center for Healthier Communities. She works on injury prevention with Spanish-speaking parents at national city schools.
So that could be implementing a volunteer safety patrol program where we have parents come out to the schools during pickup and drop off and help supervise and be the eyes and ears of the school to ensure that the kids are safe during those hectic and very traffic congested areas.
She says the program introduced her to a variety of opportunities in the healthcare field and taught her what she did and didn't like.
What I learned then, that I wasn't good with interacting with patients that were severely sick. It really hit a spot that I wasn't comfortable with.
Now her job is to help keep kids out of the hospital in the first place. But current program participant Calderon says she learned her role is within a medical center. The Hoover High School senior will graduate in June, and like many of the program's participants, she'll be the first in her family to go on to higher education.
I'm aiming for a doctor, like a MD, honestly. But I'm keeping my options open right now. I only know I want to go into emergency medicine or public health, and I want to take that into a global aspect, so in the global health field.
The program hasn't tracked how many alumni have in fact entered the healthcare industry over the nearly 10 years it's been in San Diego, but local organizers are working on this. However, the future of the program may look different here. Its major funding source runs out this year. The hospital is working with San Diego Unified School District to pursue federal funds to keep supporting it. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
Faces for the Future in San Diego is largely funded by the California Endowment, which also supports City Heights reporting here at KPBS. Imagine a Russian mole in the highest levels of the White House and an FBI agent trying to figure out who was compromised. It's the plot from a new novel by San Diego author Matthew Quirk. He spoke with KPBS Roundtable host Mark Sauer about his new book called Night Agent.
Well, the plot of your novel sounds like it could have been ripped from the headlines today. You've imagined what might play out if the Russians compromise a most powerful American official. But The Night Agent was inspired by a 2015 discovery of a Russian millionaire dead in a Washington hotel. What caught your eye about that story?
Well, it was so wild because I write the thrillers, and often you think those plots are a little bit over the top when compared to reality. But in my old neighborhood in D.C., there was this murder in a hotel that I was always going by. And it was something straight out of fiction where a guy, supposedly a Russian media czar, got so drunk that he fell down and again. And again, and that just started firing my imagination, and I started spinning a plot forward with some of these themes that are now in the headlines. So it was a fun game of cat and mouse, keeping up with the news.
Yeah, it really was. So the Russian hack of the 2016 election, ascendancy of Donald Trump, Mueller investigation, you just took your idea and ran with that as the story started playing out in the news?
Well, I had the idea. I was happily writing. And it went from being, mid-2016, a relatively under-the-radar story, not the main event the way it is today, to being the main event. And I had to find ways to get ahead of it, because first you say, oh, great, this is so timely. And then you say, oh, now I actually need to put in some zigs and zags in the book to get ahead of the news. So it was a bit of a white-knuckle writing experience, but it all worked out, and I was very happy that there'll be surprises in there for people who have obsessed with this or for people who are tired of hearing about it.
Right, just a race with the headlines
yeah.
for a lot of it. So your main character is FBI agent Peter Sutherland, and he was inspired by somebody you know. Tell us about that, and tell us about, he worked in the Situation Room at the White House, which we all hear about, but in the novel you really lay out exactly what it's like.
Yeah, well, a friend of mine worked for the FBI. We were all very young. I was a reporter in D.C. for The Atlantic. And this friend would disappear every night like clockwork. And you start playing that DC parlor game of who is he, what's the mystery job? And as best I could gather, his job was to work a sort of night watch. And as I dug in, you find out that these relatively junior young people who work in the national security bureaucracy are responsible for staying up all night every night, tracking crises, being ready to brief the president or the FBI director. And there can be this fateful moment where a relatively junior officer finds a crisis and decides to make the call to wake up the FBI director or even the president, and finds himself as the point man on some breaking global development. So that was the initial hook for the book, and I just ran with that.
So you got that catalyst, letting your imagination run wild as a novelist. So as you develop characters and create dialogue and you craft plot twists, do you find that to be work or fun?
It's a little bit of both. This is something I just found myself loving to do. I did as a hobby when I was a reporter, and I was really blown away when I managed to sell the first book and have been able to do this as my job. And the plot twists, I love when they come up and surprise me. And for this book, there are some late twists where I had most of the book put down as far as an outline, but as I was thinking about the news and staying ahead of it, there are a few late surprises that came together well to keep us ahead of things.
Right. So you mentioned you worked at the Atlantic 5 years as a journalist and gave that up for fiction writing. How helpful was your experience in journalism in now writing novels?
It was super helpful. And
what'd you cover?
I was the young guy in DC, so I would cover anything. You know, the short stuff for the front of the magazine. So I got to write about international gangs. I got to talk to people who were dealing with opium smuggling out of Afghanistan. And it was great because I covered all sorts of different topics. And I was also writing really short stuff. And at the same time, I suddenly was dropped into DC. I was 21 or 22. It was the run-up to the Iraq War, and there was all of this amazing intrigue going on, and that fired my imagination, and it sort of overflowed the short stuff I was writing for the magazine, and I started putting it into fiction.
And so it really helped the craft and honing your craft and learning how to.
And the journalists, the editors, beat you up a little bit, so you learn to not be too precious with your own writing, and I found that to be a super valuable lesson.
Become your own best editor. So in your research, you went through an urban escape and evasion course, and folks who read the book will see how that came in very handy. How did that help in writing The Night Agent?
That was something where, you know, I find that you get a lot of cool technical details, and I put those on the book because the main character used to be a G, which is the nickname for people who are in the special surveillance groups at the FBI. And so there's a lot of cool particulars on how you do foot surveillance. And there's just something really valuable to putting yourself in a situation where you're kind of terrified and on edge for a while, because that's what happens to the characters in your thrillers. So that was a thing where some people I had talked to for research suggested I do this kind of military type training up in LA, and they mock kidnap you and teach you how to break out of handcuffs, and then how to get across LA while people are tracking you without using your wallet or phone. So it was a little terrifying, it was a little fun, and I find it really helps the books.
Well, I've been speaking with San Diego author Matthew Quirk. His novel is The Night Agent. Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you.
Now let's check back in with meteorologist Erin Calandra for tonight's full forecast.
We are seeing showers off and on throughout this evening, tonight, and into tomorrow. So grab that umbrella, keep it with you. You're going to need it. But notice we do have breaks, so soaking downpours and then some dry breaks with cloudy conditions until the next rain system moves in. So there's a low pressure system driving into the north of us that's bringing in a ton of moisture. We're seeing heavy mountain snow to the north of the I-80 through the passes of the Sierras. Not recommended for travelers. And down here, we're seeing those showers, and yeah, we expect to see some mountain snow here in San Diego County as well. Here's this morning. You can see that rain is just dipping right in from the northwestern part of the county. Heavy downpours right around the commute home, so hopefully everyone arrives safely. But cloudy conditions for tonight. We do get a break tonight. This is around 10 o'clock until the next band of rain comes dropping in. If you're an early morning jogger from Ramona to San Diego to Chula Vista, the rain gear tomorrow morning. We will have some breaks again until the next system comes dipping through with soaking showers. That's right around 11 o'clock in the morning. So tonight, 53 in the metro with occasional rain, and it's going to be around 46 in Oceanside, Mount Laguna at 33, close to freezing, and so we expect to see anywhere from 6 to 8 inches In the mountains of Mount Laguna, dangerous travel conditions are expected. Now we have a big dip in the jet stream, so that's allowing all this cold air to come sinking in. Showers and mountain snow will continue through Tuesday, and it's chilly. San Diego at 60, that's a few degrees below average. El Cajon at 58. Borrego Springs, you might see the sun right around 60 degrees for the high. We do dry out midweek, but temperatures remain just a bit cool. So Tuesday's a wet day along the coast, and then we have sunshine the rest of the week. Temperatures will be in the low 60s. Inland, we'll see that wet weather Tuesday, drier through the week, but by the weekend, we expect to see more showers. Our temperatures will be in the upper 50s to low 60s, and even some snow in the mountains today. Ice is expected Saturday with some sunshine in between, and in the deserts, it will remain sunny with temperatures in the 50s and 60s. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.